Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Goddamn the mic. All right, so we are going to get into, now that we're in the new year, we have to talk about my predictions for the events in 2023. So we're going to start to hear about this stuff here over the next couple of months in the springtime, going into the summer. So we're going to go over today. We're going to go over next year's AllStar Game, where I think it'll be. Next year's Heritage Classic, that's usually a Canadian game. Basically a winter classic, but again, it's usually Canadian teams. The Stadium Series game, and you also have the Winter Classic, as well as the draft. I'm also going to go over where I think the draft will be in 2023. So we're going to go over all of that in today's video. So let's start off with the NHL Draft, the 2023 NHL Draft. It is in Montreal this year. Where do I think it's going to be next year? I think San Jose. San Jose will be the destination of the 2023 NHL Draft. We have never seen the draft held in San Jose. We've seen it in LA. We've seen it in, surprisingly, we've seen it, I think, in like back-to-back years. It was in Philly, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, all in like a very small amount of time. And they're doing it in Montreal this year. I could see them staying in in that area if they go to Ottawa. So if it's a Canadian team, I'm going with Ottawa. But if it's in the States, I'm going with San Jose. I'm going with a little bit of an outlier pick here. So there's the NHL Draft. The All-Star Game is kind of interesting because this year's All-Star Game is going to be in Vegas. The 2022 NHL All-Star Game is in Vegas. Last year's All-Star Game in 2021 was canceled because of COVID, and we were in the midst of the pandemic. And that was supposed to be in Florida, in Sunrise, Florida. And I was actually planning on going to that All-Star Game. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything, it fell through. So I wonder if that's still on the table for the NHL. Will they go just push it back? So because they had Vegas already planned this year, will Florida just be down the line to next year? Not too far from Miami. That sounds like a pretty good time. So that is definitely an interesting spot for the NHL. And I think they will inevitably do that, but we haven't gotten the confirmation for certain that they will. So again, kind of keep that in the back of your mind, but that's what we're expecting. So Florida. I'm also going with the Heritage Classic. I'm going with something we've seen before in terms of the venue, but two different teams here. One of these teams didn't exist in that I'm going to say it's the 2009 or 2010 game in Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks wore their millionaire jersey, which is the big, it's got the V. The red maroon jersey with the striping. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. If not, you could look it up. So you have the Vancouver Canucks at BC Place Stadium where they played, I am almost certain it was the Calgary Flames in that game. We're going to see the Vancouver Canucks, similar to what we're seeing this year with the Maple Leafs and the Sabres in that quote-unquote Heritage Classic game. It's going to be the Seattle Kraken, the 32nd NHL franchise, heading up north of the border to play the Vancouver Canucks. I think that would be a great way to kick off that rivalry in a Heritage Classic. I wouldn't have put an American team in the Heritage Classic, but I think we're kind of getting to the point where we're sick of seeing Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. We're seeing the same teams over and over again in Canada. So why don't you throw in a team that's just south of the border in Seattle? I think that would be a great way to ignite that rivalry. And I think it's a great way for the NHL to kind of sell one of their new brands in the league. So this is where things get interesting because I have the Stadium Series here. But legitimately, I think there are three options that are going to be, at the very least, it's going to perk a couple of your guys' ears. So the first one is the one that was supposed to be in 2021, which was earlier this year, the Stadium Series game in Raleigh, North Carolina. That was going to be played at the home of NC State University. the NC State Wolfpack's football stadium. We're supposed to see a game there. I think it's called like not Jeff Carter, Carter something stadium or something like that. So we're assuming that's going to be pushed to this coming year in 2022. But again, at this point, Gary Bettman has said we will push that game further down the road. We just don't know when or how much further down the road that has been kicked down the can. So if it's in 2023, great. I think it's kind of frustrating. I think that Canes fans were hoping to get it this year, but they already kind of started having everything in the works for the one in Nashville this year with Tampa. So it kind of threw everything off. So they're going to push that one down a year. It was to the point, guys, remember, they were revealing the jerseys. Those jerseys were leaked for that Stadium Series game. I already made a video on it. You could go back and check that. Why the 2021 Stadium Series game never happened. You could go check that out. But we got logos to that, jerseys. It was pretty interesting how things kind of fell apart. But again, I'm expecting that game in 2023. But I have some other more fun options because I know you guys were going to say in the comments that's the game, Tampa versus Carolina. That's what we expect. But there's two other Stadium Series games that I've heard a lot of rumors around. The first one, we're heading up to Ohio, as the Columbus Blue Jackets have never been in an outdoor game, let alone a Stadium Series game or a Winter Classic. The Columbus Blue Jackets at Ohio Stadium in downtown Columbus. The Horseshoe, the Ohio State University Stadium, that would be a great venue for the NHL to attend in an outdoor game. Now, this one could be pushed down the line as a Winter Classic because that is how big of a draw this could be. We saw a couple years back, they went to Ann Arbor, Michigan. That was a big event at the Big House. Detroit playing the Maple Leafs. We could see something similar here at the Horseshoe between the Detroit Red Wings, who would be, quote unquote, the Michigan Wolverines, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Ohio State Buckeye fans there. That could be a really interesting environment. You have two very bitter rivals in terms of their geographical situation. I think the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets at the Horseshoe at Ohio Stadium would be a great Stadium Series game. But honestly, I could see this pushed down further down the line as a full-on Winter Classic. How cool would that be? So that's one of the teams I'm going to throw out here. And this is the one where I've heard from a couple of different people, has been talked about for the past 2 years, and has been gaining some traction. We have not seen an outdoor game in New York now for a couple of years. It was the 2018 Winter Classic at Citi Field. We've seen them tap into the Yankee Stadium for the Stadium Series, games between the Devils and the Rangers and the Islanders. We've also seen a game at Citi Field, the Sabres and the Rangers. What if we saw a game? There's one more stadium that hasn't been touched yet, and that is MetLife Stadium just outside of New York City. It's technically in New Jersey. Now, this is where things get interesting. What does the NHL do for the teams? Because you're going to have a fan base there that's going to be disappointed. And you guys know where I'm getting to here. You have those three greater New York metro teams. You have the New Jersey Devils, who are in New Jersey. Literally, 30 minutes, if maybe even less, 20 minutes away from Prudential Center. The New York Rangers, again, you're right outside New York City, an Original Six franchise. And then the Islanders, who have gone to the Stanley Cup, the conference finals, 2 of the past, what would be 3 seasons this year. So which of those teams gets left out? I think it's going to be interesting how the NHL handles that because, again, the game is in New Jersey. In terms of relative distance, it is most close to the Devils. But I would say the Devils don't need to be in that game because you look at their relevancy. They haven't been to the playoffs, but then you also have the NHL maybe going the angle of the Rangers versus the Devils. You have the Devils as the home team playing in New Jersey, 20 minutes from the Rock, and you have the Rangers crossing over the Hudson River playing in that Hudson River rivalry game. It kills me as an Islander fan because the Islanders don't get that Winter Classic. They were snubbed of it in 2018. I do believe they will get snubbed of a Winter Classic again in the New York area. The New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils in a Stadium Series game at MetLife Stadium. I don't know if it's big enough to be a full-on Winter Classic, but again, this is another one like the game at the Horseshoe I just mentioned. It could be in its own right that kind of game. And then we get to the Winter Classic. Now, this one, you may be wondering why you're wearing a Dallas Stars jersey. It has nothing to do with the Dallas Stars or the Nashville Predators. It has to do with the venue. So, we saw that game, right? It was at the Cotton Bowl in Texas, and it was pretty close in terms of splitting the difference between where the Dallas Stars play and where the Nashville Predators play. Obviously, more favored to the Dallas Stars as they were the home team. What if we saw a game? We haven't seen an outdoor game on the West Coast in a little while. We most recently had a game in Lake Tahoe, right, in Nevada. What if we saw a game back in California at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California? We saw the Cotton Bowl in 2020, and in 2023, we see a return to another Rose Bowl venue, an iconic venue in the sports world. This is in that elitist class. You talk about Fenway Park in Boston. You talk about the Madison Square Garden. The Rangers play there all the time. The Cotton Bowl down in Texas. The Rose Bowl is in that category of its own in that regard. The Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Los Angeles Kings in an outdoor game, a Winter Classic. The NHL is going in that direction for non-traditional hockey market outdoor games. The game in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Stadium Series game. The Winter Classic in 2020 in Texas. We're seeing right now in 2021 the Stadium Series game in Nashville. Or in 2022 in Nashville. Could they continue that here with a non-traditional hockey market? A huge audience, a huge amount of gravitation there in the LA, that Bay Area between the Ducks and the Kings. It would set up for a really, really interesting game there. Again, a bitter rivalry between two teams in that area. And you also get that super iconic venue there in the Rose Bowl. I get chills just thinking about a game at the Rose Bowl in a Winter Classic. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of some of these picks? The AllStar Game, the draft. Where do you think those will be held? The Stadium Series, and of course, the Winter Classic. Guys, give me one that's better than the Rose Bowl, because you're not gonna be able to beat that one. I think that is one of the last sacred venues the NHL has yet to embark on in an outdoor game. All the historic magnitude, the location to California, those two teams playing in a game outdoors where they haven't, really since the Stadium Series games a couple years back. The Kings have been in a couple recently, but I think that would be a really, really great game outdoors. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.